What about, we did have the question in here around doing things on a budget. And so are there, we talked about Jessica, you talked about quality sheets, really good mattresses, nice linens, and towels. But are there particular areas within a property where budget friendly design, pieces or updates are okay? Right? Like, where would you tell people
Oh,
not to spend the money?
well, this ties into a question from Jason. Thank you, Jason. You have a great question about, we have a lot of owners who have the coastal comforters and some of them are atrocious. We are in a coastal town, but do you think guests really care about the starfish comforter? No, they don't care about the starfish comforter. They just you do not need a themey rental. That is
Preach,
so
preach,
out.
Jessica, preach.
Don't do it. And that is a way to save money. So get neutral bedding, have an interesting throw pillow or bed scarf on there, but no more starfish comforters, none of that themey stuff. And this is one of those little tips, like buy your bedding in bulk in neutrals, but it's better quality and mix and match it. One of the owners we work with, they switched everything to triple sheeting. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to go flat sheet, then insert, then flat sheet like in a hotel. They saved money by treating their fitted sheet like a flat sheet, like a hotel does. So now they're just buying flat sheets. So it's still a tucked in flat, which would be your typical fitted sheet, and then your flat sheet, and then they put a coverlet, and then or a blanket, then they have a coverlet. But just now buying flat sheets in bulk saved them a ton of money. And then they switched to standard pillows on every bed, 3 on a king, 2 on a queen. And now they're buying in bulk standard pillowcases, standard pillows, and that saved them a lot of money, and they elevated the quality of the bedding. So it's beyond just thinking about the pretty little touches. And then we tell people spend money on things that you're never really going to have to replace, like a beautiful lighting piece or a great piece of art, or use local artists and ask them if they want to be in your rental and get exposure and be hung on the wall, but you're not paying for that art. And then the things that you know are going to get worn hard by your guests, those are the things you're going to be more cost effective with.
Sarah, I want to get your opinion on this too, but I'm seeing in here, we had one more question around artwork and the opinion of what should that look like. So I love the idea of engaging a local artist and bringing that in and saying, hey, let's get that exposure, let's make more people aware of you. But opinion on colorful interesting art versus like basic. This is not my quotes, this is the audience members quotes, but basic art. What's the opinion there?
Nobody wants to rent a place that looks like their neighbors or a Pottery Barn catalog or boring. They're looking for interesting. So I guess I'm not quite sure how to answer that, but to me, if I had a neutral, safe, comfy, inviting chair, I would want a pop of art with it because that's what's going to stand out in a photo. So to me, there is no basic art. Don't, unless you have that biophilic natural vibe you're going for, and it's real earthy and the art is simplistic, that overall look will photograph beautifully together. But if you have interesting pieces and then a basic boring piece of art, you've lost the whole shot.
And I think one really good way to save money, but still have great art that's not in everybody else's rental. There's nothing wrong with buying things at Target, but every time I see that, I'm like, yep, I've bought that before. I've seen that. And so is print on demand. And so you can get some really great things printed from online, from actual artists. Contact your local artists. That's something that I really like to do in the cities that I'm in, is figure out who are the makers in that place that want their art displayed, and might be able to even give it to you at cost. And so that's something that I'm doing inside of my properties. And then you always have Etsy and any other online stores. There was a question in here about rugs, and Jessica, I'd love your opinion on this. How do you feel about rugs versus like keeping, hardwood floors exposed? What do you do to keep the rugs clean? I'd love to hear more about that.
I'm a huge fan of rugs. I personally want to get out of bed and have my feet touch something soft and comfy. That's part of the experience. I use in our collective, one of our sponsors is Unique Loom, and we also have Phasey. Great rugs. And there's a misnomer, and I used to do this. I used to buy outdoor rugs and put them inside because they have a propylene blend and they're easy to clean, but they're really not that comfy nice. And so we actually, the market has changed and you can get beautiful wool rugs at an amazing cost and they clean beautifully. They're a one-time purchase now for us for rentals. These beautiful wool, don't be afraid of wool blend rugs that clean beautifully. They can even be hosed off. I wouldn't really recommend that regularly, but anyway, this is not going to be on your list of having to replace every year or two if you buy a better rug. So
I
yes,
love
I'm
that.
team
What was
rug.
this? You said Unique Loom, and what was the other one?
Phasey.
Okay.
And guys, I know that there's some issue with not being able to see some of these. I think it's some of the responses. So we'll make sure that we get those responses that are in that have been shared, and make sure those are shared with you when we do the recap message.
Yep, I didn't realize that either. I do want to answer some of these then, just if that's okay.
Sorry.
So we have a couple about travel nurses. And so one is saying, basically asking, do travel nurses want rent by the room or shared spaces? I'm finding that they're not. And so even for my 2-bedroom, 1-bath units, I'm getting one individual nurse renting those 2-bedroom units. It's why I personally really like my 1-bedroom, 1-bath units for travel medical professionals. But that definitely doesn't mean that 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, and larger cannot be a midterm rental. I just don't think your target audience is travel medical professionals. It's probably displaced insurance policy holders or something of the like. And then the other question was about timeline and stay, because someone has something with a HOA that doesn't allow anything less than 6 months. Most travel medical professionals have a 13-week contract. And so that's going to be the most common stay length.
Awesome. I know we still have some more questions. I do want to touch on something, a couple of things, and then I want to ask another question here. But you know, Sarah, you mentioned, right, the issues with things walking away and SOPs and making sure that you can attribute when something is used. I think most of the people on this call are, but if you're not using Breezeway, that's going to be a great tool to help you do that. So I do have to give one shameless plug while we're here today. And I think you know, Jessica, you mentioned the white towels, the white, you know, the white neutral linens. The very first thing I can tell you as a guest, and maybe I have been around this business for too long, but the very first thing I do when I walk into a property that has that coastal comforter, like Jason mentioned, is it's coming off the bed and I'm not touching it the rest of my stay, right? Because I know enough about what happens in our industry to know that I might not be the first person seeing that bedding. So while we have great intentions, white sheets are allowing you to, they're going to be what allow you to use bleach. They're going to be what allow you to be most effective in the actual operational piece of it. So not only does this create this really beautiful design space and visually appealing space for guests, but it's also going to make it easier for your team to actually execute on those turnovers. And I do think, you know, I think, Jessica, you also mentioned triple sheeting and standardization across properties. A lot of companies are making that investment on their own to say, these are the requirements that are across our entire portfolio of homes. So they're getting rid of those comforters that were, you know, it was my grandma's favorite comforter or quilt, right, 10 years ago. And I want to keep it in my property for nostalgia. Well, not only because that probably will be the thing that gets ruined, but also because it's really hard to clean. So I do think that, you know, COVID brought about a lot of change when it came to sort of like bedding and linen and some of the basic like furnishing pieces. But I think as we continue as an industry to see more of a design influence, we're seeing that like standardization still have personality, still have appeal, still make guests feel like they're entering this incredible space for the very first time. And I do want to touch in because we are big fans of safety here at Breezeway. Jessica, I met on a panel with Justin Ford. Sarah has heard Justin speak. And so I'm curious, because I have to ask, how do you factor in, guest safety, with your design aesthetic?
Oh yeah, safety can be sexy. Safety can be pretty.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
She's been on a panel with Justin. Safety is sexy.
We did a property where there was an unusual step, and there's a company that creates artwork with a handle on it, so it looks like it's art with the dimension, but it's actually your grip to go up the stairs. You can get fire extinguishers that are themed and beautiful and hung on the wall. We just hung one in a rental, and it looks like it's part of a cigar bar, but it's the fire extinguisher, and it has a cute little sign. For the pools, we have a property that there's a little bracelet that whoever is going to be the lifeguard at the time has this cute little bracelet they wear. And then there's this little jar that they put it in there, and it becomes this little challenge for the guests of who's going to wear the bracelet for pool safety, and a sign. Like, just make it fun and interesting.
When I saw that artwork with the handrail, when you initially shared that, I was blown away. And I do think things that you aren't likely to come across without someone like one of the two of you to guide you in that right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And just thinking about all of the things that could go wrong. So making sure that you're securing things, like the oven. I think a lot of times people are buying properties that already exist. And so there's already an oven there. And so did you check that, that tip mechanism is installed? I think all of those things really, really matter. And I mean, how devastated would any of us be if our guests, had an accident happen, especially something that's preventable? So I think working with someone like Breezeway is so important, because I don't know about you guys, but I got about 1,000 things going on, especially when I'm onboarding a new property. And so make sure that you're consulting with the experts that already have things like checklists so that you don't miss anything.